The N-Line system from GreenBroz is the industry's first fully automated trimming and sorting system. With the N-Line system, a single operator is capable of trimming and sorting more than 30 pounds of dried flower an hour. The N-Line is comprised of one Model M dry trimmer to manicure your buds, one precision sorter with sorter table for fast organization of your trimmed flower, and two rise conveyors to move product through the system. The N is customizable to your needs. Break pieces away from the main unit to assist different parts of your operation. Our trichome safe blade design removes unwanted material from your flower without over-trimming. That means buds with more bag appeal and a higher weight yield from your harvest. The N-Line comes out of the box ready to trim and sort. No expensive vacuum or conveyor required. The machine's surgical stainless steel construction inhibits microbial growth and minimizes cleaning-related downtime. The N-Line is manufactured in the USA and is backed by our industry-leading 3-year warranty. To learn more about the N-Line or any of our other machines, visit GreenBroz.com. Financing options available.
Welcome to a new age of automation. One that embraces you and your people. You don't have to sacrifice your staff for your quality, not with this system of machines. Introducing the industry-born Rise and Sort system. This new merger combines our Rise conveyor and our precision sorting machines into one extremely efficient, fine-tuned processing system. 180 times faster compared to sorting by hand. Now capable of sorting 6+ pounds per minute, all while mitigating risk to your trichomes and your employees. GreenBroz, more than a solution, a growth plan. Check us out at GreenBroz.com.
Hey, what is happening, everybody? Welcome to yet another webinar from GreenBroz. We're so stoked to have you here. I already see some loyalists in the chat section. It's awesome to have you guys. Still kind of taking in the fact that it is 2022. I feel like we're just celebrating the holidays. Looking back, 2021 was definitely an interesting year. It feels like we're moving onward and upward as a community and as a country. So stoked again to have everyone here. Just want to get over some housekeeping really quick. Most of you know there's that little chat section to the right. Technically, there's a Q&A and a chat tab, but most people leave their questions and comments in the chat section. Feel free to do so. Also want to acknowledge some individuals behind the scene on our team. That would be Adam, Wes, Kasha, and our fearless producer, Marco. We also have Lisa and Emily, amongst others, from our sales team that are there to answer any questions. So yes, here we are in 2022. Some quick information and news on where GreenBroz will be. We're very excited to be attending an event down in Costa Rica next week. So we'll be attending the Cannabis Science and Industry Congress event that's being held there, and right on the coattails of that country passing medical legalization, which is a huge accomplishment for Latin America, but specifically for Central America. We also are looking forward to attending Cannabis. We know a lot of you are as well. We're going to be heading out to Cannabis mid-March. Again, another quite essential event to the industry. What started out as a protestival, but now has become very much the epicenter from a B2B standpoint as well. But a great place to tap into the craft and culture that is cannabis in Europe. So looking forward to that. Some mentions, obviously we always have specials and promotions going on. Some of the things that have come into fruition as of late that we launched last quarter, for those who have been following us, the all new M Light, which is the successor to our tried and true 215 DT. That trimmer is retiring. It is still available at a discounted price. I believe right now it's $1,000 off of MSRP at our store. Go ahead and visit GreenBroz.com for more information on that. We also have the Model G, which I'm constantly geeking out about. We hate to call it a grinder, we hate to call it a miller because it does so much more. The way that it processes the flower, but actually destems the bud as it travels through the machine to become that perfect trim for pre-rolls and concentrates. So keep an eye out there as well. Want to move on to introducing a few of our panelists. We have some great people on here. We've had friends like Kevin Jodry and obviously Ed Rosenthal, some experts from Boveda and other of our strategic partners. But it's always cool when we have on some of our own, especially a few individuals that are quite pivotal in our company, especially when it comes to process and procedure. We know that process breeds efficiency and increase in throughput no matter what the application. So I'd first like to introduce our fearless leader and CEO, as well as founder, Colin Reichart. Colin, a friend and colleague, glad to have you on here.
Awesome, Lance. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity because, I am passionate about process.
That is for sure. Anyone that's seen any footage from our operation, for all of you know, we are homegrown. We are industry born. This is something that Colin has told in stories, whether it be on podcasts or contextual. But being founded here in the U.S., specifically in California, our production facility being in Las Vegas. If you are visiting Las Vegas, you are more than welcome to come out into our facility. It is mind-boggling for anyone that's even been associated with production, the amount of equipment and machine and individuals that we have to create these American-made products is bar none. So stoked again to have you, Colin.
Yeah, Lance. I mean, I would just add, like, we don't just talk about this stuff. I mean, it's what we live and breathe and do. And, it's a passion because it's really difficult in any industry or any business to elevate yourself to the next level, whatever level that may be, without attacking, the foundational things, which are process and efficiency and eliminating waste and getting rid of all the problems. Right. So it's just one of those things, like, if you're not addressing it, you need to be, that's for sure.
100%. And it's something, right? I mean, no matter in our personal lives, whether it means grabbing those two things before you get in the car, before getting back out, but just to your point, just being mindful of process and bringing efficiency into the equation, because those seconds equal minutes and minutes equal hours, right? So
they absolutely do. I mean, yesterday, I'm staring at my coffee machine for the, I don't know, millionth time, wondering why I'm waiting for it to warm up. So I just looked through the menus and found the timer. So now I'm warmed up when I get here. But I mean, without consciously evaluating that moment and thinking, like, what can I do to not waste this 5 minutes? I don't have that opportunity, or I don't take that opportunity. So routine is the foundation of process, right? You take routine, you write it down, and then you can take that routine, because it's now process, and now you can evaluate it. You can look at steps. You can kind of dig through it. You can time it if that's what your your KPI is. If it's a timing issue, or if it's a quality issue, you can take all those things and evaluate at those different levels, and then make changes or change orders of operations and so forth. But without writing it down and without really focusing in that regard, you're going to be in a bit of a pickle when it comes to trying to make routines better. I mean, without that discipline, it's hard to get better.
100%. And I think that's an awesome segue to welcome on our other panelists and guests, Jordan Blackwell, whom I always geek out with because she's a huge fan of process and procedure as well. SOP is definitely a constant acronym in my vocabulary. So welcome, Jordan, on here as well.
Hi, guys. I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to dive into process and the different applications across the board in what we all do, especially since this is completely applicable to my day-to-day operations at the facility. Super, super eager.
100%. And to let our listeners and viewers know, obviously we'd love to do a deep dive into Kaizen and some of the other methodologies, Sigma, on efficiencies. But this is really just to kind of reference how we apply it in our world, and that carries over and segues into our offerings. How can we make what we offer to our end user more efficient? If it means more efficient trimming, if it means more efficient sorting, more efficient grinding, what can we do to bring efficiency into your workplace at any scale? Like Colin said, we're, again, being industry born, we practice what we preach. So from my homegrown in my backyard to the largest LP in Canada, we like to look at what people are doing and bring these levels of efficiency, obviously, to optimize throughput into the equation. So again, stoked for both of you to be here. And with that, I think it's perfect timing to pop up the PowerPoint and kind of dive into some of these best practices. And now, Jordan, you're going to be the one that gets to speak more than me. I already talk too much in my life. But obviously, we're going to get into boosting operational efficiency at your cannabis and or hemp processing facility. And we'll dive right in. And again, I know you're looking forward to geeking out on this, Jordan.
Definitely, Lance, lead the way.
All righty. So utilizing technology, this is something that we can reference, all of us. I love this because Colin, your background, my background, Jordan's background, so no matter if it's automotive or if it's restaurateur or if it's technology, you really can embrace technology and bring automation to eliminate waste and improve staffing. So kind of going through some of these bullet points, Jordan, if you can add a little bit of context around each of them and what we're going to cover.
Absolutely. So utilizing technology to eliminate waste and improve staffing. These bullet points, eliminating downtime. When I think about our machines and the applicability of that, I think about how the Rise conveyor takes the downtime out of transportation. You free up hands, you're able to watch the machine do the work for you and apply your skills in a different manner of that process. Increasing product throughput. By automation, we increase the capital of product we're able to get from one end to another. Increasing product consistency, a really big one. We utilize technology to eliminate potential for human variables and human error. So, creating a lateral flow in your process and potentially skimming down your QC time and creating more consistent product. Eliminating employee wasted potential, using technology to free up the hands-on kind of menial work and reallocate that talent to maybe where their strengths can contribute more to your business on a high-level view. Streamlining product process, again, expanding your throughput, getting it from end to end, and then decreasing human touch points, circling back to human variables. When we create consistency in our flow through technology, there's more opportunity for standardized process and the application of a repeatable process. Same thing, entering, coming out, and then the next day and the following day after that. We utilize technology at the shop to help with these processes, specifically with our laser cutting. We let it do the work for us, and we just help move it along the rest of the processes.
And I think that's a good example of something to touch on. So Colin, even before coming on myself with GreenBroz, I remember touring the facility in the early days when moving it to North Las Vegas. You had this in mind, right? I mean, from a visionary, because that's where the CEO is at that visionary level, you had it as a visionary in how you were building out the space. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit of how you even just streamline process, literally?
Well, yeah, I mean, the challenge with process is getting, the team engaged and, I actually had to send my production manager home to implement my first assembly line because he wasn't understanding what I wanted to do. And, once I implemented it and then started coaching through it, then people start to get it. Everybody seems to be a little bit reticent about change. And that's the most difficult kind of thing for people, right? They get in routine instead of in process, and they're just like comfortable with what they do. And then, when you come in from the outside and push in to try and change it, you get a lot of kickback, or can get a lot of kickback. But to the point of what we decided, everything that I've looked at is about driving efficiency. So my company material comes in one side and goes out the other side. We don't want things going backwards. We don't want things to be repeated. We don't want to have to deal with that kind of over processing or over transporting or any other kind of menial waste, right? We already have enough difficulty building 8 different pretty technical machines to to add in backward steps in the dance is counterproductive. So that we do that, but then when I buy equipment that overserves its purpose. So I look for what I'm doing, and I look for the best opportunity to solve the problems that I'm facing. But I look at that and I go, well, what's after this? What is going to be my next challenge? And does this help me there? It doesn't always, but it can. And if I want to save 25% on cost to not take advantage of future or potential future savings or increased efficiencies, then I'm actually kind of cutting my nose to spite my face. And so I'd rather spend, if I can, upfront and absorb some extra cost, understanding that once I've got this new piece of equipment into my system, it's going to increase my ability to either design better equipment or increase my efficiency or my throughput. And so there's a lot to it that goes beyond just solving your present needs. You have to, and that's why this is all so important, is that if you don't understand what your needs are, you can't solve them. If you don't understand what your problem is, you can't fix it. So, and the best way to understand those things is to document and put that stuff in order, and then then you can go and attack those things in a judicious manner. So everything we're not going to teach obviously a lesson on Kaizen and Lean Six and 5S. Those things are essentials, and I highly recommend that you study those if you're not, for your business. And there's resources that are available online for free. But as a company, we do this with everything we do. We do it with our equipment. We do it with our design models. We do it with our throughput for our manufacturing. So we live this thing 100%. So.
Yeah, and I think it can be applied to your point. And I know there's several individuals that are tuning in right now that are with some mid-sized to large-scale operations, and I see that firsthand as well. To your point, Colin, they have the cultivation side of the business, they have the processing and packaging side of the business, and there's not overlap. There's no backtrack, like you said. Everything starts at the seed or starts at the clone, and it makes its way progressively through this process. So, looking at, like you mentioned just now, the six steps, the cycle of Kaizen, and again, this is something you live by. And we're not going to get overly in depth, but Jordan, maybe just kind of walking us through this, because again, this is something we apply to the way that the machines that we produce are utilized for the end user.
Absolutely. I think that we keep this Kaizen mindset, which is a word for continuous improvement, in our minds at all times. This is something that we've tried to instill with GreenBroz, from our production crew to our high level to the design of our equipment. So Kaizen, again, continuous improvement, is made by micro changes, and something that you initiate making those micro changes by, number one, identifying your problems. Like Cullen says, what's next in my process? What can I do to increase efficiency here? And where are my bottlenecks? Analyzing your current process, creating solutions, testing those solutions, creating a measurable plan for implementation, and then standardizing that solution. Something that's really popular amongst us here is, a process doesn't exist until it's written down. So you need to identify what that problem is, isolate it, and then tackle it from top to bottom. Get it documented, train, and then get that buy-in from your crew. Why are we doing this? And we try our best to support businesses with that through our machines by having them geared towards, these lean waste and potential bottlenecks. Again, like waste of motion and transportation are really big ones that have a huge effect.
Yeah, which we talk about right here, right? Identifying those inefficiencies. So again, for those that are on any scale of production, be honest, all of these are an element thereof is very much applicable. Like you said, the transport element, the inventory, I mean, I know from managing businesses, having stock on hand for raw goods versus stock on hand for completed goods, where do you want to be? Because one thing you brought up, and I know we're covering it here, is, being able to create that end result that you're looking to sell to a customer as close as possible to that actual delivery versus being excessively stocked up in raw goods, or excessively stocked up in completed and assembled goods. So inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, these are things that, again, are good to look at, not just in a production process like us as a U.S. manufacturer, but also those that are manufacturing the very plant and flower that we support, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I think we've gained out of all of this, and it's not trivial at all, is the discovering the talents and skills of employees who have been underutilized or misutilized through this whole system, right? They come on maybe as general labor, and they kind of get stuck in a mode, and you don't really get to discover their real talent, or maybe their real value, especially to the company, in regards to maybe some historical skills that you don't even know about. I mean, you read a resume, but it doesn't mean you remember everything that this person can do. So I think that's one of the things that really is important, and it doesn't come out until you start working. And I would say also, like, process has to take that engagement from the bottom level. If I've been through this with a major Fortune 500 company where they pushed it all downward, and there's value in that, but the problem with it is that it becomes a fight to the bottom to get to the people, right? And no one understands what's going on. It's much better if the people on the floor are generating, are engaged in the process change, or engaged in getting the wins, or engaged in figuring out what's the best way to do whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Then you get buy-in from your people. You get a buy-in to the company. You get a more shared, more dynamic and engaged group of people involved, and the whole thing becomes more holistic. It's always better to let somebody else come up with the idea and take credit than it is for you to push your ideas onto other people, because it just creates a much more solid camaraderie throughout the whole system. So for sure. I know that's a little bit of a side, but I think it's really important. And it's one of those things that, it's not as easily understood as the other ones. You can easily find waste in all the other things that are listed on that slide, but it's sometimes and a lot of times very difficult to understand what you're missing in the potential of a human being. And without getting engagement, you'll never understand it, and you might lose or neglect somebody that's actually really valuable to your organization.
And I think that segues nicely into something that we always stress. There are some companies, not naming any names, but there's individuals that do promote their offerings with the ideology of eliminating that labor, that front line. We don't. To your point, Colin, we like to manage up. And again, we do it in-house too. If we bring some level of automation, let's teach that guy how to weld. Let's teach that guy how to trim. Let's level them up. But that's the same thing that we've always said is, stepping back and looking. I remember I was with a company, same thing, a Fortune 500, that they'd actually send out a survey once a year. What are other elements of expertise you have? Because they didn't want to manually go in and look at all of our resumes. They wanted to hear what other things we were trained in as they continued to manage us up and bring more opportunity. So again, that's what we always encourage as well. So you look at identifying the process and creating SOPs. You start out obviously with cultivation. The next step post cultivation or takedown is bucking to drying to trimming. You're curing, you're sorting, you're batching. There are things that can be brought into this in the post-harvest process that brings efficiencies. But there's also, as you introduce automation, again, being able to level that up. We know a lot of our clients, they put a huge emphasis on leveling up their QA. So all of a sudden they're able to manage their quality control better because they have more hands and more eyes focusing on that aspect versus the mundane. And I'm not saying that or discounting someone manually sorting flour or manually trimming flour. But if that person can be doing so much more than just that one routine, obviously that brings more benefit to the company. right? And again, we've seen that before in our space.
Well, when Lance, when you're talking about going after problems, people always look at these individual portions. They say, well, trimming is a bottleneck, trimming, right? Well, there's a lot there. Sorting is a problem, sorting, blah blah blah. Well, there's a lot there as well. It's not just this one piece of equipment that creates this massive gain in efficiency or helps a company to be better at this job. The biggest part of automation is transportation. It just really is. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's about moving parts through the system. And it's really interesting. And if you've ever priced conveyors, you understand the value of them, because it's really the biggest like monotonous kind of thing that you deal with. It's the movement of product from one place to another. And so, not to go too far off track on this one, but I think it's something that gets overlooked. And so if you take a single point solution, which is like a trimmer, and you say, oh, this is a great trimmer. Well, what if you automatically feed it and automatically empty it? Oh, now we're talking about something that's completely different than just this great trimmer. Well, what do we do next? Let's connect it automatically to what's next. So let's, like the inline system at the beginning of the video, it goes into the sorting system. Well, okay, now we're starting to make money, right? Now we're starting to see efficiency gain, and now we're starting to see one person being able to do 4 operations versus, what we'll see shortly, 4 people doing a single operation.
Yeah, very well put. Very well put.
Tying it in, I mean, once you say you have a system and you have those 4 operations kind of simultaneously being operated by an individual, you've created a really lateral flow. You have that one direction, you're reducing the need to go back in motion. And again, you've freed up the talent of the 4 trimmers that used to do your amount versus the one person to operate 3 different categories of that process, the transportation, the trimming into the sorting. You've gained that talent that you can now reallocate to, creating these SOPs for these equipment, or cross-training friends and other employees to operate these different functions, creating more flexibility amongst your business and really capitalizing on your human talent and the ease of lateral flow.
That's phenomenally well put. And even our friend Ed Rosenthal, I remember him pointing out, like you said, the conveyor, as trivial as it is, we think of conveyors as supporting actors, not that lead actor, right? It's not the machine that's actually trimming, or the machine that's bucking, or the machine that's sorting, but that really is the conduit that makes it possible to bring systems into fruition. And he really preaches that, to your point, Colin. Even having conveyors coming off from the cultivation area into the processing area, it's something that's trivial to most. How many buckets and turkey bags do you need to walk back and forth if you don't have that conveyor to do it? So I think it's very well put. And another thing that I'd love to point out, because we're a huge advocate of this, is, again, we don't look at hand trim versus automated trimming, or hand sorting versus automated sorting. For our clients, it's a hybrid. So they might introduce automated trimming into the process, but they just level up their QA and QC with that hand finish trimming. So we have a lot of clients that do 80% automation, 20% manual. Same with sorting as well. They come in and do quality control after it's automatically sorted and dig into it a little bit deeper, just to find any of those nuanced buds that don't quite meet their standards or expectations based on the bag appeal they're looking to accomplish. So again, all great feedback, you guys, and how what us as a company, as a manufacturer, is doing, and how that carries over into our offerings. So if we kind of move into the next slide here, I think this is a great thing. Again, I'm going to let you take the lead on this, Jordan, because I'm a huge fan of the first 90 days, but that's something that's different in my environment of biz dev and marketing. So if you can kind of elaborate on this 90 days in productivity.
Absolutely. I feel like a huge lift of change and promoting process is implementation, and that, again, that initial buy-in from your crew. So something that we've kind of implemented here is just a 30, 60, 90-day check-in. When we're making a big change, we want to make sure that we're benchmarking our productivity and making sure that not only are we hitting our goals, but are we reviewing and analyzing them for their best capable, potential. So in our first 30 days, when we're implementing something that's new to our crew, our main goal is to plan what this looks like. How is this going to affect our business, and how are we going to implement this to our teams? What does the training look like? And then how do we get that consistency from them, and the buy-in to committing to doing this on a daily routine. By the 60-day mark, we want to have them trained. We want to have that general buy-in, and we really want to promote that two-way feedback. Us consistently coaching and making sure they're following routine, but them also giving us feedback on what we can do better, what did or didn't work for them, and how can we adjust to better reach our goals as a company on both ends. And then finally, by that 90 days after that, big change, we want full standardization and full commitment from our team, from high level to low level. We want a written out, documented process and full team training, and the ability to easily cross-train and utilize different people and their talent. So just as an idealization, moving in our equipment to your facility could be a big lift. And so how do you get that buy-in from your crew and that implementation started and, moving through the process to better fit the efficiency and what your end goal is?
100%. 100%. I think it's very well put. And everything in that cycle, to your point, I love how you really benchmark. And I know you do this. This is applied, not just words, but actions. So one thing that we did, and I know a few were around the facility when we did this. We're very fortunate. We have quite a sprawling space out there in Vegas, and a portion of it is dedicated to our showroom and our R&D. So we actually have an hemp handler's license in the state of Nevada, brought in some hemp. We know it's not cannabis flower, but obviously a close iteration in biomass form. And we did a little bit of comparison. We looked at what it took for 4 individuals to process flower versus putting it into an automated process. And I think the thing here that we want to identify is, yes, while we did bring automation into the equation, we still had one person doing QA. And then those other 2 individuals moved into that QC role, right? That really looked at the overarching, what is the flower doing as it goes through this process? How can we further streamline? A lot of the things you talked about, right, Jordan? A lot of those checkpoints that was on that other slide. So with this, obviously you take it to a 30-pound level with the rise in trim. This is something that Colin was referencing, or all the way into our inline system, where at nominal, you're going to be coming in at 30 pounds an hour, but obviously based on configuration can get into several hundred pounds per hour based on the way that system is built out. We also looked at for trimming too, so 1.5 pounds per hour versus, for sorting, 1.5 pounds per hour versus 90 pounds per hour with the sorting system, and then scaling all the way up to 360 pounds per hour with the rise in sort. And it really is, again, one of those things where, moving from 4 individuals focusing on this mundane to taking it to 2 individuals or even 1 individual and being able to reallocate those resources, right? Exactly like you were saying, Jordan. So
definitely. I'm really excited to take a look at our videos that we did kind of testing this theory as well. I think there's great identification for those waste that we try to combat with the machines.
Yeah, I know. Let's pull those up right quick. I agree. I think those videos, and we're seeing all the different configurations here. But I agree. It was a fun exercise for us to do. Again, we like to apply it real world. So we'll get those popped up. And it really is interesting to kind of see how the iteration changes, how the touch points on the flower change, the quality of the output changes. I mean, all these things are all factors into that equation. And again, it was kind of cool having you and Colin both. I know you guys swung by and watched while we were filming these, to just see what it's all about. I mean, literally, we were recreating one of our clients' operations in their facility right there on our showroom floor in Las Vegas. So it was really cool. I've sent a shout out to Josh and Emily from our sales team. I know Emily's in the feed right now, as well as Adam and Kasha from our marketing team. They're the ones who literally sat around the table here and we pulled out 5 pounds of flour, right? We took 5 pounds of trim biomass. Again, it was hemp, so it was a little rough, but as is hemp. and to see them really go through and pick through in the time it takes. And everyone has their different process. We know definitely several individuals that tune in every month. They tell us their stories of how they bring process into their local and existing environments, and what they do to try to optimize it as much as possible. And so I think that's something that, again, we hear that back. And for those of you that haven't, feel free, reach out to info@greenbroz.com, ping us on social media. We're very accessible. We're definitely, obviously, very well known for our customer service. But Colin mentioned it before. A lot of what we get from R&D and a lot of what we get to optimize what we've already built. I mean, the Model G is a great example. I love the first iteration, and our engineering team was not happy enough with that. They literally, in my opinion, took it to a V2 before it's even gotten out the door. But a lot of that is based on feedback that we get from you, from our audience, from our GreenBroz fans that really communicate to us, what can be done to bring more efficient, what can be done to improve quality. So I think it's something that's pretty pivotal. Pop up. Oh, and there we go. I think it's loading just now. So yes, here we go. So here's one example of iteration, kind of starting out more so on the automated side. But this is, again, Kasha and Adam. And what they're doing is utilizing the sorter and sorter table, something new for 2022 on a side, not to be Mr. Plug, but now the sorter table is included with the sorter. That's something that we found obviously just hammers home the efficiency like we're discussing here. Kasha with her magic fingers, I'm still so impressed with how quick she goes through this stuff. I think we literally got through 5 pounds within a few minutes on this machine. But what's cool is you notice that while they're sorting and allowing the equipment to do the job, they're doing a bit of QA on the fly. So you see that Adam's looking through, making sure that what's being sorted is sorting properly, and how it's coming through the process. Any additional input, Colin or Jordan, that you want to share on this one?
That is a big plus, I think, in our equipment. You can obviously use our equipment in a system or a single piece of equipment type fashion, or in multiple pieces fashion, but you always have access to the product at hand. So there's always the ability to have eyes on, to be able to pull out that stray errant bud or stick that got through, or problem that you see. Whereas, if you're going through one of the other processing systems, that opportunity doesn't necessarily exist. And to your point on the sorting table, I mean, my gosh, it's at height. You don't have to bend over anymore. like really, you got to put buckets on the floor to catch your buds before they hit the ground. That was an idea that we thought of a couple years ago, but that didn't work. So we moved on to the table because it's at height. It's at feet height. There's a reason. If you want to know, I mean, I can take anybody through why everything that we've done on these machines has been done, and it's always because there's a gain to the process, a gain to efficiency, a gain to accessibility or usability. You're seeing the hand sorting, which everybody knows. Hand sorting takes time.
It does. And some of the process, even just moving around the buckets and the bags here is a good example. Just all the addition. Again, this is what gets Jordan's head spinning, I know, and not in a good way, is look at the lack of efficiency that's going on with this process, and not to mention a little bit of potential loss. But I think you put it well, Colin. I mean, that's one thing that I've noticed, and I get, copying is the best form of flattering, not my favorite expression. But I think you make a good point. I've seen other machines that do this chutes and ladders, as I call it, to where they just drop down a funnel essentially to the ground level. So you're talking about your bud dropping 2 feet conservatively from the point of sorting to its final destination in the bag or in the box. And that's one thing that, like you said, very much thought through. That was what we did a first iteration many moons ago. I want to say that was 5 years ago now. To your point, you see that there's never more than a 4 to 6 inch, because we found that there's that greater potential for trichome fatigue, i.e. terpene loss, by allowing the buds to drop too far during the processing. But yeah, here's the one you're talking about, Colin.
Right. So I mean, with the one with Kasha, and Magic Fingers and Adam running together, I mean, you're getting really good efficiency out of a piece of equipment. I don't know how sustainable the magic fingers are over time, but that's another issue, right? We're talking about potential for repetitive motion syndrome, fatigue. Fatigue leads to reduction in quality, reduction in value, and employee burnout, employee loss, potential harm or injury. But when you get to this point, though, we now have what is essentially an equipment operator. So Adam is graciously standing in to, basically by himself manage the throughput that they were getting before with the rise conveyor. So again, transport. There's something else that's bringing the material up into the sorting system. You can easily take the output from this machine and run it off in another direction via conveyance to whatever else you need to do. So this is just like tying pieces of the puzzle together, and we do that with the customer's needs in mind and with the goals of our customer in mind. Like, you don't have to do things a certain way. We can tie into other equipment. We actually, our rise conveyors feed some of our competitors' trimmers. Our sorting system is used at the end of other people's processes. So it's just one of those things. It's like that we make agnostic kind of equipment that is all designed to work really, really, really well together. And, as you can see, one rise conveyor will feed every piece of equipment we manufacture. So it's all specifically designed to make a good quality processing solution that can be expandable, but is also, has its individual pieces that can be used for other things. Like that rise conveyor will carry anything you put in it. Aside from liquid, it's going to carry whatever you put in it up to the top and dump it out. That's what it does. It's not magic,
Like you said, people use this in an edible form, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the sorting system is pretty straightforward as well. So, you could, if you're bagging, you can use, there's a foot pedal on that rise conveyor. You can just hit the foot pedal and fill what you want to. And, we actually sell the rise conveyor and the Model M separately. You can take the Model M and feed it consistently with a rise conveyor, where it's not as easy to do, especially from operator to operator, right? If you're going to feed it and you want to say, okay, well, you need to do 3 flights or 4 flights. That's the optimal amount to put into the machine. That's an easier conversation to have with somebody than fill this bucket to this line right here and then dump it. That becomes subjective, right? With the machines, the equipment, it's less subjective. It becomes more controllable in its consistency, and that's kind of the beauty of what equipment does. So, at the beginning, the end line shows the trimmer in front of this system, right? And the numbers we put out are like the 30 pounds an hour because it's limited by the trimmer. Well, we can put 4, 5, 6 of those trimmers on. I know we can put 5 of those trimmers around there, and you can line them up in a line too, and put as many as you need to fill into that sorting system. So it doesn't. It's not a limitation of the equipment. It's just a matter of imagining the design to get the flow for the company and what they want to do, right? So it's designed modularly for a reason. It makes it a lot more accessible, and it makes it expandable and gives you a growth plan versus, building individual one size, one company kind of systems, which are exceptionally more expensive, but also stuck in a set modality or a set kind of frame. We can do those too, by the way. It's just that this is the introduction, to automating, any process or system that you need to do within your cultivation. So
adding on to that, Cullen, I think it's a really good point that process isn't a one size fits all. Systems isn't just one way for everyone. We need flexible solutions. And when you're evaluating process and looking for efficiency, it's great to have multiple different takes at it. You can eliminate time expenditure by just moving your tools closer to you or whatever's needed in that process. It doesn't have to be, again, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we have to do it this way. We can get creative. We can try different things. What works best for you and what works best for your team is most important.
And that's, I would add to that too, Jordan. Thank you. That it's not. That's why we don't go here. This is how it's done. It's not. These are equipment. This is equipment that we have that can supplement your process, your system, increase your efficiency, tie into how you do things, and we can make you better at what you do with our equipment. Now, can we help? Can we tell you how to do it? We can, but that's that's not really where we fit. We fit into the the category of helping you to expand and create more efficiency and more value in your company and in your environment, because there's a million ways from Sunday that people do trimming and bucking and drying and prep. It just, and we're not here to dictate how it should be done necessarily. While we know how to do it in a very efficient way, we are here to help you be the best you that you can be and help your company to be as efficient as it possibly can.
I think you nailed on something there right quick, Colin. That's why, our team, they're really consultative sellers, right? I mean, we do offer services, and of course there's agencies, there's companies, and this is their biggest priority, is to offer similar services where they come in. But we do offer to come in and go, hey, let us know, what's your floor plan? What are you looking to accomplish? Where are you looking to introduce efficiency? And actually helping with a plan that lays out how these machines and these pieces of equipment can be used within that given space. Because like you said, even our friends at the clinic is a great example. They do a lot of their processing at the end and start of the week. So our system's modular, our system's mobile too. So they're literally pull it off the wall, put it out in the middle of the floor, configure it the way they need to based on what they're processing, and then put it right back against the wall so they can bring out another system for the other half of the week. So again, we really love working with entities and individuals out there that are looking for that help on giving ideas, but we can't give you the answers. It like you said, it has to be cyclical. You have to let us know what you're looking to accomplish, that end result. As Jordan was saying earlier, you establish your goal, what you want as an outcome, and then obviously that's where the help can come in to get you there. So,
I would add to that, like Lance, I mean, the modularity portion of it, and you can take that rise conveyor and put it on the the Model G, on the Model M. It ties in. It comes with the Model M Plus. It can be put onto the onto the sorter. If you wanted to, you could put it over the top of an M Lite. I mean, you could use it to whatever you want to feed. It's just it's a universal kind of piece of equipment that just does one job, and it does it very efficiently. And then adding it to other jobs just increases the efficiency in an exponential kind of way of the next process. So and I don't want to go too far, but in the sorting system, when you see it operating the way that it is in this video right here, you have taken at least one person out of the management of this whole process. You've reduced the load on the one person who is managing the process, and you've created a very consistent throughput and a very nice efficiency through a mechanical system, right? So now Adam can be doing QC over the top, not having to manage the functionality of the machine and get better results. And instead of having to have Adam and Kasha both managing the feeding of the machine, and then neither one of them is really paying attention to maybe the more valuable aspects of the QC, inline QC, right? So it's one of those things that it's hard to understand the value that something adds in a manufacturing kind of context until you have seen it. And I'm telling you that the adding of an automated feeding system is an exponential change to efficiency, because we can dial that to meet whatever our desired throughput is, right? So it just becomes a really interesting kind of conversation, even in a manual piece of equipment like the manual Model M. Being able to consistently fill it with the rise conveyor gives you that moment of like, oh, I'm going to always get it's always going to run. I can run it, set it for 3.5 minutes. I'm always going to get the exact same thing out of it. And I just press this pedal and it runs. And you can actually set the stinking rise conveyor to run for 30 seconds and it will give you the same amount I mean, come on, man. It's, that's what we think about. So we geek out on crap like that. And that's what makes this stuff work,
It is. It's true.
Adding on to that, in enthusiasm with the Rise Conveyor. When I think of Rise Conveyor, I think immediately of the elimination of motion and elimination of transportation. And you would be shocked to find how much that gives back to you by eliminating that extra back and forth and dumping of containers and the hand motions, the focus that's not required to be there. We use a lot of stopwatches at the facility, and we decreased one of our builds of our models, the time for it by 3 hours, just by congregating the tools needed and designating different sub-assemblies, So just by eliminating that motion and that wasted transportation, we gained ourselves an entire other build for that day. And that's what the Rise Conveyor is for me. It's taking away that menial motion, that 10 minutes to go back and forth to another room to grab more product.
Yeah, that thing can hold 15 turkey bags of flour for the for the record if you're running pounds and turkeys. We'll get into questions really quick. I know we ran a little long, team. Kara Manley, she wrote out, sorter is great, takes a bit of time to clean. We definitely have some best practices. I believe Emily shared a video. We have some best practices around cleaning. It depends on what level, how extensive you want to clean. We know some people, it's obviously depending on the market, it's depending on what product you're passing through it. But obviously you can do everything from a light cleaning to a full in-depth disassembly cleaning. We have a video for both, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something we can definitely help you out with. And I love what Cole put, streamlined production saves millions over the years and thousands up front. That's 100% true. That's the thing that we look at. And I think most people grasp it, the people we work with, they recognize that what we offer is an investment, not a cost. If you look at it in that regard, right, you look at it as an investment, like Colin said, he invested in this company a lot more upfront with things that would bring efficiency for the long term for us versus us always outgrowing what we started with. And that is very much an advantageous approach. Again, you don't have to be a large scale producer to recognize that if you spend a little bit of that more, like Cole said, spend the thousands up front, it can equate to an exponential amount of savings in the long term. And looking at where the savings is, to Jordan's point, across the board, savings and being able to even build an extra machine a day, that's advantageous for us because additional throughput equals additional opportunity. And that's if it means getting your product through, more sales, whatever the case may be. So
there's Lance, there's a couple of amazing, case studies that you can see on go on to YouTube. I know that there's a show called A Faster Horse. I highly recommend it. It's all about the build of the new IRS Mustang, and what you get to see in that. And while it doesn't give you all the inside scoop, it does show you what the impact of what some things are on other things, and how that snowballs and escalates and can completely change what your total outcome is. So being able to create these moments where you're able to pull back 3 hours. Okay, well, now what am I going to do with that 3 hours? Am I going to double my production, or am I going to spend more time doing something else? Can they be supporting my R&D department? Can they be doing, another process? So that becomes that kind of amazing moment that you discover in this. Now, there's always plenty to do. It's not like I don't have anybody sitting around.
Yeah,
that's not what happens. You know what I mean? So.
Well, you use the analogy. I've used it before on our webinars, but the McDonald's, I'd say, like, people didn't really quite notice when the one lane turned into those 2 lanes, right, going through, and everyone's like, oh, they must just hire more people. They had the same amount of people. They just optimized the throughput by bringing automation into the equation, right? A machine that, novel concept, drops ice and adds water or adds tea or adds soda, and all of a sudden that one mundane element they're able to accomplish via automation to increase their throughput, not to decrease their human capital, not to decrease their assets, because we know that obviously employees are in many cases the biggest expense, but also the biggest asset to any company. But they're able to bring efficiency and throughput, and I love how you use that example, Colin, because they couldn't be more applicable anywhere else. Cole, love what you have to say, man. Yeah, investment in productivity and profits for sure. And definitely thanks for the shout out, Josh. And when is the Model Z dropping? Oh my gosh, man, that thing. So we geeked out so much on the Model G. And again, I mean, objectively speaking, yes, I'm an employee of GreenBroz. Everyone knows that, but man, that Model G is wicked. So our team really spent quite a bit of effort on just fully optimizing the Model G first. Again, thanks to our friends at Cookies, specifically Cookies out of NorCal. They did give us a lot of phenomenal feedback on that and a few other pieces of our equipment. The Model Z is something that we're looking into spring. I'll put that out there. That's when it's going to be more likely coming into fruition. What we did, again, with the preliminary launch or soft launch that occurred during MJ Biz back in, was it now, October, we took a lot of feedback. So that's one thing that Colin's great about is, hey, let's go take this out in real world, because we love our engineers, but at the end of the day, they aren't growers, they aren't processors, they aren't producers. So we partner with individuals and take this equipment out there literally on the front line and say, okay, what are you currently doing? What are the downfalls of what you're doing right now? Rather be a tumbler with a vacuum or any other means of trimming. And what are you looking to optimize off of this process? And what are you looking to improve? What don't you like? Are too many trichomes ending up in the vacuum filter? Something that I have a friend that keeps complaining about up in Carpinteria. Might be something that we can address with what we're offering, right, Colin?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And we took it out and we fell in love with it. I mean, I honestly, absolutely fell in love with the Z and the concept. But when you do that, you have to take a minute and you have to have it in a place where it's actually functioning. And we were running thousands of pounds through the machine, thousands of really dirty, hard work pounds through the machine.
A few bottle caps.
but the reality is, and I'm there. I've got two of my engineers on there, operations managers there, and we're just going through it, just banging away at what's happening at this place. Why are we suffering this moment? How do we fix this? What do we do to make this more efficient? What is the best way to approach this? How easy is it to disassemble? I didn't even try taking this apart. This is a real pain in the ass to put back together. So you just go through and you start creating this list of items that are challenges, or they kind of get ranked. You have a challenge or you have an absolute no-go, or a complete failure. Thankfully, no complete failures, just a couple of things that have to really be addressed. And then a couple of things that will make it so much easier for the end user. And so that's really what it comes down to for us is, this real world experience. While this machine is just cranking out high quality product, there's some efficiencies in our design that need to be gained. So that's what we do. We just go right back to the board and bang it out. And that we'll be back out next month with the machine again, in a much more controlled environment with a much better product instead of a heavy duty outdoor stuff. We're going to be working in a really nice greenhouse environment, working on a very consistent product that has a real good bucking and pre preparation structure. And we're looking to see, how it stacks up in that environment. We went to the hardest of the hardest and survived, and so now you go to the next. And I think that's, I'm a cowboy kind of guy in some respects, and I love to get stuff out early. And we brought it. We brought it to MJ BizCon because we took it to a farm and we're stunned by it. It was just like, what? So
absolutely amazed.
Fact, like, done. I can sell it.
I'm so impressed with it because it's a format that still allows you to keep your eyes on the flower. Something I'm huge as an advocate. I love that we're able to keep our eyes on the flower in any machine that's trimming flower that we offer. It's not going down some sort of mystery tunnel or some sort of configuration of where you hope whatever comes out on the other side is what your end goal is, because you don't know until you test it. That's correct. So there's no priming, there's no prepping. Run it through the machine. If you want to see a little bit finer trim, you can run it through again. But you know that it's always easier to take off more than it is to take off too much, because you can never put it. It's like a haircut, right? Yeah. So I love the way it's configured, that you're always able to keep your eyes on the flower. And we did get great feedback. So thanks for asking that, Josh. Obviously, there's a lot of potential in what that machine has to offer, especially a throughput. 100 pounds an hour, not 100 to 200 pounds a shift. That's pivotal.
Yeah, I think it's actually, honestly, Lance, we were feeding it at about 170 pounds an hour, and it was not even balking. Like I'm going to have to figure out how to feed it faster is what's going to end up being.
More to come on that.
And then of course we're going to need to sort it fast. You know how this whole thing goes. Anyway, the point is though, I mean, we were just really, really fortunate. I think, this is a little bit more about us. We're very meticulous and methodical in the way that we approach the preliminary designs that we come after, right? We don't just go and go, oh, well, let's try this, let's try that. I mean, my team really, really does understand cannabis because we've built so many pieces of equipment. We've gone to so many tests. Nobody in my company and the engineering team hasn't been in the field, hasn't seen the problems that people face, and understands, like that at a base level, what the ultimate goal is. So we're designing specifically around cannabis, not designing and hoping and taking something from somewhere else and bringing it in, and that's why people copy our designs, because they work for cannabis. So that's how it goes. But we design very specifically for this plant, and we love it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, my gosh, this hour flew by. I very much want to thank both of you. Thank you, Jordan. As always, thank you, Colin. It is great having you all on. Thank you for the questions. Shout out to Josh and Cole and all the crew, Kara, all the regulars, Tim, Lisa, all the regulars that attend. We definitely love having you on. Like you guys figured out, we're all about education first. Obviously the opportunity will come, but we're about the education and supporting the industry and the efficiency thereof, as well as the community. So we want to thank you all for joining. We will be back again next month. As you know, we do this on a monthly basis. We'll also be getting into a little bit of webinar and demands for people wanting additional information. More to come on that from the sales side. But thank you everyone for attending. As always, happy harvest. And until next time, we shall see you then. Thanks, everyone.